How you doing, sir?
Doing good.
Doing good?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about
The Wind Up Watch Fair in San Fran. Yeah.
San Francisco. We're heading out.
Yeah, we're heading out soon. So today's date is the 20th, and then we'll be heading out. The show is from the 3rd to the 5th.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Are you excited?
Oh yeah.
What are you looking forward to the most?
Actually seeing the other brand owners.
Yeah?
So one of the coolest things is like when you're in this micro brand realm, you feel so, lack of a better word to say, is like isolated, right? You feel like you're the only one experiencing all these challenges and exciting milestones. But there's like a select few people that also see it in the almost identical frame, right? It's these other microbrand owners. So at these shows, there's like anywhere from 40 to 60 brands, and it's kind of like a giant powwow. Like, obviously people can come to the show, they can look, touch, buy, whatever, good conversations. But the best part is syncing up with these other brand owners, just saying like, how's your year going? Like, you have to get past the smoke and mirrors because everybody's like, oh, it's great. And you let them get that out and you're like, no, like really, tell me, how's it really doing, right? Because I think naturally there's this wall of everything's always good, and that's natural. But then you want to sink into like, you know, what are you going through these days? Like the best experiences, but also like the most troubling challenges. Because more times than not, the challenges that we're facing, the next guy is going through like a similar thing, or maybe he already did in the past.
Have you learned anything from interacting with other microbrand owners that has really helped you in the day-to-day operations of Brew, or maybe beyond that?
Yeah. Greg, might have to cut your shirt. It's opening in the middle here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. You
can cut that out.
Cut that out.
Yeah, there's a button missing.
I know. Just want to make sure you're covered. Okay.
Hide it.
Oh yeah, you're good there. You're actually good, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for telling me.
I will always tell you. Okay. Well, dude. See your question.
But yeah, so have you learned anything from interacting with other microbrand owners that has assisted you with Brew?
Yeah, I would say you see a full spectrum. So you see the guys that make a handful of watches per year, and they're content with that. So they kind of they have those challenges to face. And then you talk to some of these other owners, and they want to take over the whole world. They want to be the #1 spotlight brand. And so you get a good mix of how do they run their business, how do they service their watches, how do they stay loyal to their customers. And so you kind of get a good balance. And the things that I've learned from talking to them is like, I try to extract what are the troubles that they face and build systems to counter that. Mm-hmm. Some might be they want to get special movements. Okay, well, what's the trouble with ordering or making that movement? Well, maybe they don't make it often, so it takes a year and a half to get them. All right, so maybe planning ahead. So one of the things I learned is you got to have designs years in advance. I'm still not there yet. I'm still maybe a year in advance, but some of these guys that are planning far, far in advance, I see their anxiety drop a little bit because they have a playbook for the next 3 to 5 years, which for me is unfathomable, because what I say now to interpret in 5 years may not be the same. So
yeah, no, that's really interesting. I totally understand what you're saying about, like, I just know from a day-to-day, like having a plan for your day eliminates so much anxiety. So having a plan for what you're going to manufacture, what you're going to design and release in the future can certainly take away the guesswork and that anxiety of like, well, will I come up with it? Will I be inspired in 5 years? But I was wondering the exact same thing when you were saying that. Like, how do they ensure that whatever designs that they're creating and putting all this effort into producing and releasing in the future, how do they make sure that it's going to be relevant then?
Yeah. Well, I guess it's also staying true to your roots, right? So if you have a distinct DNA, you don't really taper far from that DNA. You evolve your brand, meaning maybe you increase the value through the materials, the movement, etc. But to your question, how do you interpret that style 5 years down the road being in a line with what you're doing right now. I think it takes a lot of foresight to imagine what that looks like, but nobody can do it better than the brand owner, because you're essentially the leader of the vision. So it's not just what you say goes, but more in line of you have a calculated vision. You should be able to interpret it better than anyone else.
Okay. Yeah, I've always kind of wondered that. Like, how do people come up with something or like see that far in the future? But I guess you're almost saying that it's like they're setting that trend.
Yeah.
So that whatever they have already, whatever the ethos of their brand already is design wise, it's just iterating on that in the future and bringing something fresh and new that's going to guarantee that people want to participate in that.
Yeah, and there shouldn't really be a wrong way to do it. I think maybe there's better ways to do it, but there's no real wrong way to interpret your own brand.
That's true.
But with all that said, I would say it gets a little bit more predictable and efficient as time goes on, because through my own lens and through talking to other brand owners, you see the patterns. You see the patterns of how many new products you should launch, what type of new products you should launch, how much time do you put focused on your current lineup and maybe evolving that and tweaking it versus coming up with a completely new generated idea. So you see a pattern of what works and what doesn't. And then of course the third variable, what makes the most sense for me.
So it's almost like you're having just objective benchmarks that you're trying to hit, and then just filling those in. Well, that makes a lot of sense in terms. Have you ever heard of, you know, Rick Rubin is, right?
No.
He's like I'm gonna butcher it, but he's like a huge music producer. It's like produced everybody from like, I think like Jay-Z to like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, System of a Down. Like, he's all across the board, and a lot of Johnny Cash, and
Wow.
A lot of, I think it was a podcast I recently heard him on. He was like, when you start creating something with the goal of pleasing other people, you've already failed. Like, a lot of that is like, it's easy to come up with designs that are going to be released 5 years down the road if they're designs that you yourself are like, this is what I enjoy, this is what I like, this looks really cool to me. And that's what's going to have people 5 years in the future connect to that design and be like, wow, I want that watch. I want to wear that on my wrist. So maybe it's something like that.
Remember when I said there's all these patterns that you see?
Yeah.
It all comes down to that in the end. What do I enjoy the most?
Yeah.
And that is your product. That's like the key goal I think a lot of owners go through. All the troubling designs that may not do well and the ones that do really great, I think it all funnels down to what do I enjoy the most and making sense of that. Otherwise,
Yeah.
without that enjoyment, passion, it sounds cliche, but that really does amalgamate into a great product.
Yeah, because then you're essentially, you're undercutting your brand. You're undercutting like your own. It just comes off desperate. It's like you're just trying to please people. If you're like, whoa, what kind of watch movements are going to be popular in the future? Well, I better capitalize on that. And like it's like chasing trends. It's like what we talk about with social media. If you're just doing trends, like nobody's going to respect you as a creator.
The watch world isn't what's the color of the year. The watch world isn't what's the gemstone of the year. It's definitely what's my generated idea that I love, but also I find that other people might find a similar interest in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. How do you prepare for a major watch fair when you're presenting your products? Like,
that's
do you give people sneak peeks on things that they couldn't?
I think the most important thing for myself is when you're online all the time, people generally just want to do two things. They want to handle the product in person, and they want to see the person behind the brand. They want to see who they've been typing to on Instagram.
Yeah.
And so I think the show is most important for that. That is not a problem. Obviously, I'm showing up with the product. I try to travel light, but in the past, I've noticed there's always something I don't bring. There's always like a product I forgot, and now I feel this huge responsibility if I'm going across the country. It'll be that one member of a fan that says, oh, I love that one watch you had. You don't have it anymore. And all they wanted to do was just see it in real life and just to handle it. Whether they could have it to own or just handle it, you see that intrigue. And so I do my best to have almost one of every product, not even for sale, just so customers and fans can look, touch, and feel. And for me, that's like the greatest thing, because I know I'm kind of bridging a gap of this digital disconnect, right? That's what the shows are for. They just need to see it in person to realize this is the whole product that meets or exceeds expectations.
Do you make I mean, like, I've never been to a watch show before, so I'm asking very, very beginner questions. Do you see a lot of people who are maybe like on the fence that then decide like, I'm going to buy this right here now?
Yeah, that's a good question. Less on the fence. I think when folks do want to have that transaction and make a purchase, it's more that this is such a special period where the brand, the owner are physically there at the show. It's kind of, I don't want to say opportunity, it's kind of a special moment to make the purchase. Because it's not just buy online from cold website, it's the transaction from the creator. And so I think that's a little bit more special. And I think people want to take advantage of that. So it's not that they're on the fence. It's just, let me take advantage of the moment to get from the artist.
Let us know what if you have any questions, leave a comment. Make sure you subscribe, follow on Instagram for all the latest updates, new products, and content featuring the man himself.
We'll be doing it together.
On Instagram.
Awesome.
All right, sir. Good.
Cool.